At the beginning of the week, there was a survey, CBS upholding masks for children in their school should be, and this is among parents of school-age children, 57%. Now, presumably, if you have a kid who is in school, then you have a sense of how that kid is reacting to their masks. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're completely oblivious about your children. Well, keep it back up there, please. 57% say it should be required. 36% say it should be optional. And I don't know how that breaks down in terms of people who would say, like, I'm going to allow my kids in there, but it's okay if other kids don't want it. 7% say no, not allowed.
But either way, that's a majority, even with the margin of error of parents of school-age children who think that
huge majority say it should be required.
Margin of error is
57%. 4 points? Is 57% say required. Optional means I don't necessarily see a problem with kids wearing masks, but I can understand if other parents do. That's what optional means. Because if you thought it was a problem for your children, you would say not allowed. And so it
was child abuse, for instance.
Exactly. Right. It's very likely that you're looking at like 80 to 90% of parents are okay or want their kids to still wear masks in school. Now, that it may change in 2 or 3 months because people's perception of the risk of COVID, you can take it down. The perception of the risk of COVID may go down. But these are all people with kids. That's the definition of school-age parents. And they presumably have a sense of how their kids are doing. The worst thing, I would imagine, is not having your kids in school in terms of like socialization. But this whole thing of like kids aren't seeing the expression on their teacher's face with the masks. I mean, I'm sorry. I've been to, just in the past week, multiple birthday parties for kids in 3rd grade.
But also, Sam, you're a parent. How much time would you say the average kid under the age of like 12 spends on their tablet watching videos and movies where people are not wearing masks? And still,
I hadn't thought about that, but a lot. I mean, more than I want them to. I can tell you that. But
and if they're so worried about their teachers' facial expressions being read on their children, then you must support virtual learning as an alternative.
I mean,
because then the teacher can Zoom.
It's just made up. I mean, I have no doubt that I think it's possible that kids who are like 3 or 2 or 1. If they were in a context where they're not, where like, I don't know, their preschool teachers aren't, or they're not around caregivers who are, it's possible that is going to implicate things. And there's no doubt kids are being hurt by this pandemic. But the idea of masks in schools are this sort of, our child abuse is just bizarre. Here is Fox's Sandra Smith and Brian Kilmeade worried about the children.
Teachers too. Why not do the same in a show of support at a minimum?
Right. You know what they say? Well, they have to be able to hear me. Stacey Abrams says, well, they got to be able to hear me. No kidding. Don't you think a kid wants to be heard or hear from a teacher? How many times do you have to say, excuse me, what'd you say? I can't hear you. So they don't bother talking. How many conversations have not happened because they've been wearing the mask over their face, which Dr. Scott Gottlieb has said, and Dr. Siegel has echoed in the past, that they really don't prevent anything of stopping this virus. It stops the flu. It doesn't stop the virus. Paper masks don't. N95s do. You want to put your kid in an N95 mask, it protects the kid. You put yourself in a mask, that protects the person across from you, in theory, and perhaps you. But when you look at the stats and you realize everything we've done, the lockdowns, the shutdowns, the mandates, it has affected death rate 0.02%. It also found out that natural immunity matters. Everyone had Omicron, it seems. Now, guess what? America's basically has has natural immunity much higher than the 72% that lists in the New York Times every single day. So what I'm trying to say is, not only is this theater, these kids are going to grow up and they're going to sue everybody. They should sue all their parents, all the teachers, and just for the record, I'm taping this. If you are our next generation, whatever we decide to call you, we've been calling for the end to this. And this is, by the way, the fact that the Biden administration is not acting and all these blue states are is one of the most significant stories through this pandemic. And today, while I'm sitting here over the last 45 minutes, Maryland is now saying, let's end masking. Nevada, a couple hours ago.
Then cross that off the list. Here's the MAP score.
Okay.
Weird data. Have no idea where he got that from.
Can we just talk about like all this BS? We can fight every little interest. This is just like CRT. You know, what they were talking about has frankly nothing to do with the teachers unions at all. And they had Randy Weingarten's face up there and it was on the screen. Dems pandering to teachers unions. Why are teachers unions important? Number one, they're the largest public sector employee. Number two, they're the largest donors to the Democratic Party as we go into midterms. I don't care what their next excuse is. It is only about that. It is only getting people organized at the local level, angry moms at the teachers, at the unions, when it really has nothing to do with any of it.
It is. And the amazing thing was all the different things they threw in there. It's only 0.2 effective. We are down.
0.02.
We are down in terms of how many deaths happened in this country yesterday, and it was 2,400 people. It just so happens that if you do the math, speaking of schools, you need a much lower percentage when you're talking about 300 million people in the country. I mean, this is, it's just bizarre. And to throw in all of these different things, and he's just admitted, well, okay, if you wear an N95 or a KN95, which is what all the kids are now wearing, KN95s. My son has had a KN95 since the beginning of school. Different paper masks that they wear it. And he has been in close contact with people who have had COVID on multiple occasions in the school for 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. They're all masked, no infections. And
it would be very easy to just say, hey, we need to require KN95 masks to keep schools open.
And in many respects, I think there's a lot of the schools that are basically saying you got to wear that. And the kids are getting them. The schools have them. And this is what the norm is. And he even conceded that it works.